Arizona PBS is proud to support Indian Country Today. For 6 decades, we've provided television programs and now digital content. But we go beyond that, sending outreach teams across Arizona, offering workshops in language and literacy, family engagement and community outreach, and supporting tribal communities with early learning and school readiness resources. Join us at azpbs.org.
This is Indian Country Today.
Esquili, yes, thank you for joining us. I'm Patty Thawahungva. The Texas Senate is trying to pass a bill to remove required public school lessons on Native American history. The Daily Mail reports that comes after Governor Greg Abbott signed Senate Bill 3, beginning the discussion of critical race theory. Critical race theory examines issues of race in the country. The state's History Museum shows the area is home to tribes who have lived in the region for thousands of years. The Caddos built large, complex villages, created elaborately designed ceramics, and traded in networks that spanned thousands of miles. The measure is currently stalled as 51 Democrats left the state to prevent the Texas House from having enough members to pass the legislation. 80% Studios is announcing the release of Chickaloonies, an all-ages fantasy adventure. It comes from a graphic novel and is the latest work from Chickaloon tribal citizen Dimmy Maharis. It's based in Alaska and follows 2 native kids, Mr. Yelly and Sasquatch Emoji, who are on a quest to become the world's greatest storytellers. In their adventure, they use lessons from their grandmother and speak their tribal language. The pair journey to foreign lands to learn from other cultures, share their own knowledge, and maybe even save the day. The independent visual artist studio was co-founded by Dimmy in 2010.
I wanted to tell a story where the son had gone missing. And so they're on a mission to find the son and bring it back. There's a lot of themes of language and friendship, and it's a coming of age story, and sharing culture, sharing traditions, and learning are some of the central themes.
Chickaloonies will be available online starting August 1st. All this week, we've been reporting from Las Vegas, where 2 national conferences are taking place. Yesterday, our editor, Mark Trahant, received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the National Indian Gaming Association. Chairman Ernie Stevens gifted Mark with a blanket, an eagle feather, and a plaque. He noted Trahant's many outstanding achievements in journalism. Trahant's career started 40 years ago. He's worked at tribal papers like the Navajo Times and the mainstream papers such as the Seattle Times and the Salt Lake City Tribune, and he's taught at several universities. In 2018, he took over the helm at Indian Country Today and turned our news organization into a digital platform. While accepting his award, Trahant shared major news from our team. In September, we will become ICT, and Aaliyah Chavez will take over anchoring duties. And while we are not supposed to be the news, we do want to introduce you to our new anchor. Karina Dominguez has more on Aaliyah Chavez.
When I got the news that I was chosen to be the permanent anchor of Indian Country Today, I was over the moon, so excited. And a part of me actually didn't really believe it because it felt like it came so soon.
Aaliyah Chavez will start anchoring the Indian Country Today newscast this September. Chavez is from the Gila Pueblo in New Mexico. She received both her bachelor's and master's degrees from the Stanford University Journalism School, completing her last program in 2019.
I will work insanely hard to make sure that the news coming out of our newsroom is stories that are not only accurate, but stories that are interesting, stories that are important to tell.
She started working with ICT in June of 2019 as a digital reporter, writing articles that were published on the website. She covered the election in 2020, including the presidential race, reporting from Iowa and other hotspots. Now she hopes to have a broader impact even beyond this broadcast.
I think one of my career goals is going to be nurturing the next generation of Native journalists.
Tune in this fall for Aaliyah's debut.
And those are the headlines from Indian Country Today. I'm Patty Thawahungva. When we come back, Mark will have more from Las Vegas.
I'm Mark Trahat. I'm here in Las Vegas at the National Indian Gaming Association Trade Show, which is really massive. Today we're talking with John Chasuda III. He's a regular contributor to Indian Country Today, extensive political background. He worked as the staff director for the Senate Indian Affairs Committee, and he's a former principal deputy assistant secretary for Indian Affairs. He served in that position from 2017 to 2020. Prior to that, he worked with Navigators Global, and that's where he's at today. John, thank you for joining us, and in person.
It's great to be in person with you, Mark, and always enjoy our chat, so looking forward to having more fun today.
Well, this is really an extraordinary conference, not because of any content or because of the number of people here, which is amazing, but because this is really almost a coming out for a lot of tribal leaders.
You're right, and I'm actually amazed. I guess that so many tribal leaders, old friends that I've known for years, have said this is their first trip in a year and a half, and so it really is. And I think there's a lot of excitement in the air, and folks are really looking forward to getting together and enjoying the company of their fellow tribal leaders and other folks that they haven't seen in a long time.
In our regular chats, we talk a lot about economics, and this Visible is an economic powerhouse.
Right. Tells you where Indian gaming has come from. I remember the early days, and very small in a conference room, really in a hotel, and now filling up a whole conference center.
Actually, I remember the very first story I wrote about it, and it was I forget his name, but he was head of the Ways and Means Committee or one of the main House committees. And he talked about how it was a threat to horse racing. Tony Coelho, yes. It was a $300 million industry.
yes.
And now look at it.
Right. Well, I remember a few years ago, we had kind of a mini celebration amongst all of us that have been in Indian gaming. If you go back and you read the Senate report for the bill that became the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, it cited the then Indian gaming industry, which was primarily bingo, $200 million nationwide. And a few years ago, we passed the $20 billion mark. And we thought that was spectacular. Of course, we're well north of that now. So,
one of the other, I think, significant shifts has been back then, gaming was seen as a challenge to Nevada, New Jersey, and some of the other gaming states. And now, being in Las Vegas, you see allies.
Oh, right. So many partnerships, that over the years. It's interesting. You look back to the early days in California, and it's not that long ago. We're talking in the early 2000s when the tribes in California were pushing propositions to get their compacts through, and big companies here, and not just the casino companies, but manufacturers and stuff sided against the tribes, and of course, great story for us, right? The tribes won, but really it was a great story for the industry. So when the industry side lost, and they realized they had to partner, it became a win-win for everybody. And so it's been a great growth for the whole gaming industry, not just the tribes.
Why throughout history you see that particular narrative play out. I think of salmon and how in Washington State, how everyone can't let the tribes do this.
Right.
And yet now they're all partners, and the salmon resource is better because of that partnership.
Right. Well, if the tribes hadn't stood up for their rights, we probably would not have a salmon resource for anybody now. Let's just be honest about that.
One of the things, and I should tell folks that this is a brand new convention center. In fact, this is the very first convention. They were going to have one in March a year ago, and then the pandemic hit, so it hasn't been used all that time. And the National Indian Gaming Trade Show is 3 full convention floors. It really is, I've never seen anything like that, and I've been to NIGA trade shows before.
Well, there's probably a lot of pent-up energy, I would guess, and folks who may only come every other year, some of the smaller vendors and stuff, but everybody's here at one time. So it's great, and it'd be nice if this was every year, so we'll see.
And some 6,000 people are registered. One of the other stories that I think about gaming in tribal communities especially, well, there are 2 that are always I like to talk about. One is that folks wonder why, and then there's a 10,000-year history, that this is something that's really a part a lot of tribal cultures. My tribe plays hand bones and has forever. But the other one is there's a lot of innovation. This is not just folks doing this as an ad hoc thing. This is serious innovation in business.
Really, that is part of the amazing story that tribes have led for the whole industry. And the need to address some specific legal issues led to technological inventions that have now become industry-wide and innovated the entire industry. And the move to cashless machines, all these things that the industry didn't want to do because they didn't want to make the investments. Well, we had to make the investments, and then they followed suit. And they got the benefit of us leading the way, but it's been great for the whole industry.
The other one that I wonder about, and maybe put on your policy hat for a minute, is IGRA was a piece of point in time, and so much has changed since then, the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act. And as this innovation occurs, is it time that be revisited in a big picture way?
There's a lot of debate about that. From my perspective over the years, when I was at the Indian Affairs Committee, we proposed several bills and even got them out of committee that would have made some minor modifications. I want to say, I could be wrong, but I want to say I'm actually the last staff director that amended the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act. They were very minor amendments, but it did change the fee structure for the NIGC in a way that made it match the industry, so it could grow with the industry and not be stuck with a set dollar amount for their budget, and a few other minor changes. But I believe there could be some real thought given. There's always a danger, and this is what a lot of the tribes fear, is that there might be some unfriendly changes that are proposed. But that happens with every piece of legislation, and I get, maybe because of where I have been and stuff, I see it as part of the normal process, and I'm not as afraid of it. But I do understand the fear. Everything's going good. Why would you want to change something that's working?
Well, one of the things that has changed is the idea that it's now international, and there are structures in place that don't match that international ambition. Right,
and as you move online, we have sports betting. And these are issues that transcend, tribal state boundaries as they do international boundaries. And, there are some ideas. There's even a bill introduced, that might change part of that dynamic. That would be, to my mind, a positive development.
And we'll have to end our conversation for today. We always go fast.
Great.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Mark.
This is Indian Country Today.
I'm Mark Trahant, Indian Country Today. There's so many stories to tell from the National Indian Gaming Association trade show. One of them is this is the first time for a lot of vendors to come out of the pandemic and be with a big crowd. There's some 6,000 people here. Today we're talking with Ann Yazzie, who has this extraordinary booth. And tell us what it's been like and how are you faring?
Okay. Well, with the pandemic and everything going on, it's been very hard, and it was a tough decision to come back out and be part of the, the NIGA trade show here. It is quite, sometimes it's pretty, scary to, just be out here, but, because you don't know who you're going to be dealing with, but, you have to take that. Sometimes you gotta just take that risk and wear your mask. So yeah, that's the way it is.
Are people excited to be looking at jewelry again?
Oh yes, these past yesterday, today, they were pretty excited about it. This morning we had some, people walking through.
So it was worth coming to. That's it.
Yes, it was well worth it. And like this year, during the pandemic, a lot of us stayed home. A lot of, we did a lot of jewelry. We did, as you can see, a lot of sewing. We came up with the Kit Kat and Tay collections on the ribbon skirts. So
you're ready for this?
Oh yeah, we're all ready.
Let me ask you this: with there 6,000 people here, has it felt overwhelming, or is it pretty steady?
It's pretty steady.
People are social distancing.
Oh, yeah, there's still social distancing. I see people wearing masks. I know, some people don't really touch, and we of course we got to carry our sanitizers and whatnot. So, yeah, we're all trying to play it safe here.
You look at the high rate of vaccination for tribal members, and it's almost an advantage for someone like you to have that. Yeah. Not only are you in that environment, but your customers are.
Yeah. I strongly, encourage people to get vaccinated. It's better safe than to be sorry. We lost too many family members, and too many people, especially native country. We have a lot of people that have left way too soon. So it is a sad thing, and we all need to play it safe.
During the pandemic, did you do an online business?
I did a lot of online business. It's under Anyazi Jewelry. I do have Instagram and Facebook on that. So yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And I'll be right back. I'm Mark Trahant, Indian Country Today. We're here at the Reservation Economic Summit in Las Vegas. Today we're talking with Sherry Soloway Black and Porter Holden about agriculture and some of the challenges of running a small business. One of the things I really like about agriculture and this conference is the diversity of people here, and agriculture is one of those professions that is so easy for people to forget and not think about, and yet it's critically important in Indian country. Let's start there.
So the Native American Agriculture Fund has provided some support for RES to do a track on agriculture-related businesses, and that's exciting, I think, to really see that track, because we realized through COVID that there is extensive food insecurity in Indian country, and so this is really to help educate ourselves about what are the needs in agriculture for tribes, for individuals, and this all grew out of the Keep Siegel class action lawsuit that was settled and resulted in the Native American Agriculture Fund.
Well, in fact, with Keep Siegel, it pointed out that folks who would have qualified for a loan under any circumstances did not. And Porter Holder, you were involved in a situation just like that. Maybe tell us how that happened.
I was a lead plaintiff in the Keep Siegel litigations. I'd went into USDA to try to buy a piece of land on there. It was actually on their negative inventory at the time. Had a good business plan, was turned down. Long story short, I was contacted from some other people. We all got together. We got with these attorneys. It took a long drawn out affair. I mean, it was 15 years, a lot of litigations, a lot of lawyer talks that I don't know. I'm a rancher from Oklahoma. I mean, so it's been an experience for me. And your comment about agriculture in Indian country getting overlooked, yes, sir. And you follow that up with the comment of being very important. People overlook it. I mean, we've gotten to the point, and like I said, I'm a rancher, so that's what I'm going to talk. I mean, that's what I know. And we've gotten to the point that we don't know where our food comes from. COVID exposed that. Our food our food source is too far away. So as tribes and as NAF, what we're hoping to do is build entities and fund organizations that can help bring more food security to tribes. And like I said, I'm a rancher, so I'll talk beef all day long. So yes, it's very important, and it does get overlooked on a lot of your reservations, a lot of your tribes. But I think with all of this, with the pandemic and everything waking, I think people are starting to see, we need to get closer to home with our food source, and that really showed up this time. That did. So, but I like that comment. Yes, it gets overlooked, but it is very important. We need to pay more attention to it. So.
Well, one big change since even a year ago is at the U.S. Department of Agriculture. You have people who not only know the issue, but are making decisions.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Zach Ducheneau is now the head of Farm Service Administration, and Janie Hipp, hopefully, will be confirmed as the General Counsel for USDA. And Janie was the CEO of the Native American Agriculture Fund, so that's exciting.
In a way, this is almost a really exciting time for agriculture, because not only people coming out of the pandemic and knowing they need to know their food sources more, but people are rethinking food in really dramatic ways.
Yes, sir. And it again reflects to what you said. I think there will be more light shed on it now. I mean, when you went to the grocery store during the pandemic, when it first started and the shelves were empty, I mean, there was a certain kind of panic right there. It's like, wait a minute, what's going on? And as being a beef producer, we had plenty of beef on hoof, but what we are lacking is processing facilities. Now, USDA did earmark money. I watched the speech Secretary Vilsack give last week. USDA earmarked $500 million for new and improve and update processing facilities, and it's going to come out in grants, loans, and guaranteed loans. So yes, it's getting some light shed on it now. The pandemic, there is some good that come out of this. I mean, we're starting to realize we got to fix this now, because tomorrow's too late. I mean, as a farmer and rancher, you plant the seed today to get the crop tomorrow. So in order for us to secure the youth that's, I watched the youth deal yesterday, and we got some good youth coming up. In order for us to secure them, we got to plant them seeds today. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, talking about education and the business aspect of that, one of the things people don't realize is how the different kinds of businesses that can be related to agriculture. It isn't necessarily, only ranching or farming, but the related industries. And one of the key areas we fund in is education assistance, which is so critical for the young people. So looking at scholarship programs, to train in veterinary medicine, or, there's so many kinds of areas, environment, climate, sustainability, all of these kinds of areas that youth can now be trained in, or anyone, to do that. And I think it's really important here. And in the packet, in everybody's conference bag, they received a copy of the plan sort of for agriculture economic feasibility in Indian country. What are the kinds of things that are needed? Infrastructure, education, credit, and that's the key thing in Keepseagle, was because of the denial of credit. So access to capital. We work with native CDFIs, and that's really important too, to do more lending in native communities. So
Critical in any business. I grew up in a ranching community, and one of the challenges there is everyone wanted to go away. And how do you create an atmosphere where young people want to go into ranching?
Everybody wanted to go what?
Go away.
Go away? Right, because of the work and the pay. That's basically what it is. I mean, I see it turning now to where you can make a living on the farm. I mean, it's getting back, I think the light has been shined on. I think we're we need to be, tribes really need to really look at this. I mean, they need to, food sovereignty, they need to have food sovereignty. As the world moves on here, I mean, as generations go, that's going to be a problem. USDA put out a study, by the year 2050, the nation's food supply has to double. Okay, you think, well, we'll just plant double crops, we'll put in more. Here's the big elephant in the room, as well as USDA, this is a study they've done. We lose 1 acre of farm and ranch land every 2 minutes. So just through this interview right here, we've lost 10 acres just due to urban sprawl and recreation. They've got a pie graph, and the biggest is urban sprawl and recreation. I forget what the others are over there, but that's the biggest. So we're up against it. The future generation is really, if we don't do something now, they're really going to be up against it. I mean, like I said a while ago, we got to plant the seeds now so they can harvest the crop then.
Thank you, Sherry Salloway Black and Porter Holden.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you for watching. That's a slice of our Indigenous world from Las Vegas. I'm Mark Trahant. We'll be back with another edition tomorrow.
Sometimes you got to take a stand just because you know you can. Oh, you got to run, you got to run. Standing rock. This is Indian Country Today.